Hello, everybody. I am a hillbilly. Welcome. I kind of didn't get this scheduled very far in advance, so that's okay. Everybody will come on in. So we have some update. It's kind of an update about Sheriff Mickey Stines here in Letcher County. If you have not been here before, welcome to the channel. My name is Elizabeth, and I am your friendly hillbilly host. And this is Hillbilly Crime. Come on in, everybody's coming on in. It's been a long day, y'all. We streamed for like over 8 hours this morning on a trial. I'm ready for bed. We got day 3 tomorrow of the Boswell trial. Starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So if anybody wants to join us, it's pretty touching case. Very touching. Marnie, welcome on in and hit that like button on your way. Yes, please. It helps us out way more than you know. Janet, hi. Yes, Crystal C. It's the slowest trial ever. But, man, learning what people are capable of is usually very disappointing. Adventures of Pete and more. We have it too in Clay County. Sassy 5328. Hello. Janet says hello from a cold and windy Wisconsin. I would love to go out west. That's like one of my biggest dreams. Is to go out to the big mountains out there. I know what we got here in Kentucky doesn't even pale in comparison. I don't know if I said that right, but you know what I mean. Crystal says the case is very touching and saddening. Yeah. Mike Skidmore, which sheriff exposed? We're talking about Mickey Stines. Okay, so let me pull up my thing here. Is everybody ready? So, former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Stines admitted in his deposition. So this was the deposition that he gave 3 days before he went into the courthouse and did what he did. Some of that has come out. Everybody's been waiting and wanting to know what Mickey said in that deposition. And we've got a little look into it, and it's not pretty. He sunk, in my opinion. And that's probably why he did what he did. This shines a little bit of light onto that. At least it does for me. I don't know about you all. Just 3 days before he unalived District Judge Kevin R. Mullins, that he had violated his own department's standards of conduct and set a poor example for his deputies. Portions of the deposition were included in an affidavit filed by Scott J. Hilden, the police chief and director of public safety for Northville Township, Michigan. He served as an expert witness in the federal lawsuit brought by Sabrina Adkins and the estate of Jennifer Hill. So that's the one that Ned Pillersdorf filed, right? And so they have hired an expert witness, and that expert witness has given his opinion. Adkins and Hill sued former Deputy Ben Fields, the Eastern Kentucky Correctional Services, Inc., the EKCS, and Stines in his official capacity. So he was sued in this, or named in this civil lawsuit, in his official capacity, alleging that Fields coerced them into SMECs while serving as both a deputy and the supervisor of the company, the ankle monitor company, the Women's Home Incarceration Program. Now, Fields was later criminally charged, pleaded guilty, and served 6 months in the Letcher County Jail, as we all know. The lawsuit claims that Stines failed to properly train and supervise Fields and names him in his official capacity. In an affidavit filed on Monday in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Kentucky, Hilden, that's the expert, he asserted that Stines' leadership failures directly contributed to Fields' misconduct. He wrote that the Letcher County Sheriff's Department fostered a culture of tolerated misconduct, lacked proper supervision, and failed to enforce policies, creating an environment in which Fields' abuses could thrive. According to Hilden, these systemic failures rooted in poor leadership, inadequate training, and a lack of oversight played a significant role in the harm suffered by Adkins and Hill. Hilden referenced Stines' deposition given on September 16th, 3 days before he entered Judge Mullins' chambers and 8 times. In the deposition, Stines repeatedly claimed he could not recall details about the department's handbook, which had been written under his predecessor. So there must have been a handbook written under Danny Webb that Stines' administration never used. When questioned by plaintiff's attorney, Brittany Baxter, that's the woman, I think that's the same woman that sent the request to the Kentucky Attorney General's office that got this whole thing started, the civil suit. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's who that female lawyer is, but it might not be, so I don't know, but I think that's who it is. He admitted that while he had given the handbook to Fields to review, he had not provided any formal training. When asked specifically about training related to the handbook section on sexual misconduct, Stines responded, "None that I can recall." Hilden further stated, that's the expert, that Stines contributed to a permissive culture where ethical violations were ignored. He cited crude and inappropriate email exchanges between Stines and his deputies, including an altered image of a statue depicting an obese, naked man straddling a turtle, with Stines' face superimposed onto the figure, and a deputy's face then was placed on the turtle. Hilden described this as an example of the inappropriate workplace behavior that Stines regularly engaged in with his staff. When questioned about these communications during the deposition, Baxter asked Stines what kind of example he believed that he had set for his employees. Horrible, he admitted. Baxter then asked if the emails violated Letcher County Sheriff's Department policies reviewed earlier in the deposition. Yes, Stines responded. When pressed on which policies he had violated, he answered, conduct. Conduct unbecoming? Baxter asked. And then the next page of the deposition, which would presumably include his full response, was not included in the records. So they only included one page, I reckon, or at least one section of it into the filing, the affidavit that they filed on Monday. And I wanted to look here and see. They called it in a different article. They said, let me find it here. It says, his communications with staff were crude, vulgar, and sexist, and had no place in workplace conversations. That, I think, is actually in what the expert said. This might be the quote. The expert said that Stines contributed to a permissive culture where ethical violations were ignored, citing off-color emails between Stines and his deputies. And then it tells about the photograph. That it says, Hilden said the photo is an example of the conduct that he regularly engaged in with his staff. And that's about it. So that's very surprising. I don't know why I'm surprised. We kind of figured this, didn't we? Let's see what everybody says. What do you all think? That's right, my dog Rex. Hit that like button, y'all. Help me. Oh, that's the one that we did today, yeah. There has been no new info on Mickey for a long time because he's not talking. No, this was what he said in the deposition. 3 days. This is what was recorded in that deposition when he went to Ned Pillersdorf's office and sat for like a 3.5 to 4 hour deposition, answered questions. And I guess because of this civil lawsuit, they've hired an expert to review the deposition. And this is what the expert is saying, that Stines absolutely was, he contributed. And basically how I take that is, he provided the environment to allow this abuse to thrive. That's exactly what he said. And it's pretty much what has happened. Frog Level Florida in the house tonight. That's right. Okay, so now we're going to look at this other case that's from Pike County. 30 miles 30 miles to I don't know which direction. This is awful, though, you guys. Absolutely just unbelievable. Just unbelievable, y'all.
A couple accused of child abuse and kidnapping after a teacher notices something just isn't right with a young boy. I have the disturbing case out of Kentucky and how police say this boy may have been singled out in his own home. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. You know, this is one of those cases where I read the warrant and the complaint and I just absolutely cringe. I'm going to tell you that right up front. And I'm going to go through this warrant with you, and your heart is just going to sink for this child. Mary Hall and her boyfriend, Jerome Norman, they're in the Pike County Jail in Kentucky, charged with child abuse, kidnapping, and first-degree assault. Kentucky State Police say the alleged abuse was discovered after this boy returned to school after Christmas break. Now, when I think about Christmas break, I think about kids and what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be happy, presents under the tree, cookies in the oven, things like that. But state troopers say what this child endured, a doctor called it torture. A warrant for Mary Hall's arrest said the person who called police hadn't seen the child in question since December 23rd, right before Christmas break. And this person said they noticed bruising on the child's chin that could have been from horseplay. The warrant states, the boy has chipped front teeth and a busted nose on this date. He said he's been packing wood and riding his bike, but he would not say how he was injured. Mary was asked about his nose and teeth. She stated that they've been packing wood and he's been out playing. She said he could have done it in his sleep. She denies knowing what caused this. Now, if you've ever had children, you know a child chipping teeth in their sleep is highly unlikely. Also very unlikely you would get a busted nose from doing something in your sleep unless you fell down or something like that. And if that wasn't bad enough, what the trooper wrote in the warrant only gets worse. There are times when the boy is not allowed to eat at home due to discipline. He has appeared hungry. The other children report to Mary as to what happens at school. The boy was able to have a piece of cake and pizza at school, and Mary stated that he will not receive dinner since he was given this at school. Food isn't withheld from the other children. He was sick this morning after eating. He is real pale, real skinny. He does not look good. He looks malnourished with clammy skin tone. There are siblings that never look like this. They aren't injured. Now, from what the state trooper wrote, it sounds like the other children may have revealed something to either the police or to someone at school, since the trooper knew that the other children were supposed to report to Mary Hall what the boy had done and eaten at school. And from what is written, it sounds like the child was being starved. The trooper wrote, the boy gorges himself when he eats at school. Today he gorged himself until he got sick and vomited. The boy is treated worse than the other children. For example, the other children do not have food withheld, do not gorge on food, and do not appear malnourished. The boy is not allowed to go on school field trips. When asked about his tooth, the boy turned away and denied that this hurt. So by the sound of it, troopers are suspecting that this boy is starved at home and only gets to eat at school. The troopers then searched the home according to the warrant. It states, upon serving the search warrant on the residence, troopers found the room where the child had been held and referred to as the dark room, with locks located on the outside of the room. The room itself had a single mattress and a lamp in the corner of the room. Troopers say this is where Norman and Hall kept the boy. There are more details that are just gut-wrenching, including the boy's condition being so grave that his heart actually stopped beating. The warrant states, since the child was taken from Hall and Norman, the child suffered cardiac arrest and was taken to UK hospital. The child at this time is unable to keep solid food down, and the treating doctor stated that the child showed signs of torture. I want to bring in Florina Outchiller. She is a former prosecutor. Florina, this case is just absolutely stunning to me. The fact that this little boy, we don't know his age because they've been keeping things about him tightly under wraps, but the fact that he was starved, according to what we're reading in the warrant, and so much so, endured so much abuse, is what they're suggesting, that he went into cardiac arrest at the University of Kentucky Hospital. So Talk to me about how serious that is and what that tells you as a former prosecutor about his condition.
Yeah, the allegations, if supported and true, are really just horrific. Unfortunately, it's not all that uncommon. And I've seen many cases where parents or guardians withhold food from their children as punishment. And they withhold food to the point where the child is essentially starving to death. And sometimes we see cases where that child passes away from being deprived of food and water. And it's really just horrific. It is one form of abuse. Oftentimes, that abuse is paired with actual physical abuse, where they beat the child, they leave marks on the child, they will lock the child in a closet, in a room, sometimes tie a child to a chair or a car seat, a radiator. Really just horrific forms of clearly torture.
Mary Hall and her boyfriend, Jerome Norman, they're the ones facing the charges in this case. And again, they're being very, very careful not to identify the child here. So we don't know if it's Mary's child or Jerome's child, but the child, we believe, obviously is the son of one of these two people. So I am just horrified by this because the timeline here is very important. December 23rd is the last time the person at the school sees this child. You assume because they didn't report anything until January that they didn't see anything in December that rose any type of concern, or raised a concern, I should say. The child was seen on December 23rd and they didn't see anything that, there were no red flags. Then winter break is over, the child comes back to school and the child doesn't look good. And so this child is being deprived of food. It sounds like the other children either told the police this or somebody told somebody this because the police are aware of it. And it's being used as discipline. I mean, how on earth do you think disciplining a child by withholding food is the way to get through to a child?
Right. Not only is this not appropriate, this is clearly criminal. And not only is this neglect, but this is physical abuse. And it really rises to the level where this is causing such serious injuries that it could potentially be attempted murder. And if this poor child passes away, this would be murder. Murder does not have to be somebody shooting somebody with a gun or stabbing somebody to death. When this is your child, and you are the caretaker, and you purposefully withhold food from this child to the point where there's organ failure, if that child, God forbid, passes away, you are responsible for killing that child. It becomes murder. And if the child survives but had life-threatening injuries, that could potentially be charged as attempted murder. And here, you make a great point. You mentioned.
Let me stop at real fast and let you know something that I found out. That woman that you see, she's not the little boy's mom. I think the mommy passed away a few years back in a car accident, and the little boy's dad is actually not in the picture either. I think from what I've understood, these were not his biological parents. Just wanted to throw that in there.
And how, everything seemed fine by December 23rd, and then he's out of school because of the holidays, comes back, has all these injuries. Unfortunately, that too is not uncommon. What we see is parents and guardians are with their children for this prolonged period of time due to school vacation, and they don't know how to handle that. Not an excuse. What they're doing is absolutely unequivocally criminal. But because they have a child for this longer period of time, it's not just after school, it's all day, every day. They act like the criminals that they are and begin to try to torture this child in an effort to control and condition the child. And it is often that we see homicides during these prolonged school breaks when parents and guardians just do not know how to discipline and control their children properly, and instead do things that are really just absolutely unimaginably horrific.
You know, one of the things that really bothers me about this case, one of the many things that bothers me about this case and the allegations is the fact that the claim in the documents is that the child, the boy, was treated much worse than the other children. So the other children, we don't know how they were treated. Maybe they weren't treated. I can't imagine they were put up on pedestals the way this whole thing reads. They at least weren't treated as poorly as this child was, deprived of food, and also, you know, apparently locked in a room. So talk to me about how common that is, that one child is singled out and takes the brunt of the abuse.
It's almost like the classic Cinderella story. There's one child who's the scapegoat, and there's one child who's the black sheep, and there's this one child that the parents really take their rage out on, and they think that this child is the problem child, this child isn't listening, this child isn't cooperating. And it's not surprising that sometimes these are the same people who aren't abusing their other children, but are abusing horrifically just one child. Sometimes you see cases where there's abuse and neglect of all of the parents' children, but it's not that rare where there's one child that's being picked on and picked on consistently. And when I say picked on, that's how it starts, but it goes from being picked on to horrible criminal activity where they are abusing, eventually torturing, and eventually sometimes killing the child.
There's an allegation too in here, and I kind of touched on this earlier, that they were locking this child in a room. There was a single mattress and a light in the corner of the room, and then locks on the outside of the room. I mean, this child was being treated worse, according to what's in these documents. I mean, these are allegations at this point in time, worse than a caged animal. I mean, I can't believe it.
Yeah, and again, that too is something that unfortunately I have seen many times. It's almost like crating a dog, but worse, right? If you need to crate a dog because you're leaving for a few hours, you leave food, you leave water, and we're talking about a dog, and we're talking about crate training. Here, we're talking about a human being who should never be crated or caged or locked in a room. Unequivocally, absolutely never. There's no situation where that is acceptable. But these people who are themselves acting like animals are locking their child in a room, and that's just yet another form of power and control, and in their eyes, exercising discipline, when really they are exposing this poor child to a very significant risk of death.
The child had chipped teeth, busted nose, from what the reporting party was telling law enforcement. Law enforcement, I'm assuming, could see this when they saw the child, because chipped teeth don't heal. They don't just go away and grow back. So this child, you know, gives this story about packing wood. They were packing wood, and this is how he was hurt. And then mom says, oh, well, he could have done it in his sleep. Well, you and I both know that that's highly unlikely, that this child hurt himself in his sleep, chipping his teeth and busting his nose. You know, I get the feeling that these are charges. They face child abuse, kidnapping, first-degree assault charges. Jerome Norman is accused of fleeing, evading police. They got him into custody. Do you think when this goes to grand jury, you know, we see even more serious charges? I mean, the doctor at the University of Kentucky said they saw signs of torture in this child.
It's going to depend on the seriousness of the injuries that the child sustained, and frankly, unfortunately, whether or not this child even survives those injuries. So certainly if the child passes away, there's the very real possibility that both of these people can be charged with murder for causing this poor child's death. If hopefully this child survives, it's going to be a question of how serious are the injuries. And if there are injuries that are serious, if there's protracted impairment of an organ, if there's organ failure, if there's a permanent injury, they could be charged with attempted murder for causing those injuries and for exposing this child to a significant risk of death. So those are potentials depending on what those medical records show and depending what time will tell us. And certainly all the other charges would be appropriate because they've restrained this poor child in a room and locked him. That would be kidnapping, right? Kidnapping is not necessarily abducting somebody and moving them. Kidnapping could be just locking somebody in one place and restricting their movement or preventing them from leaving. In addition to potential assault charges for the injuries that they caused.
Well, this poor child, I hope that he survives and that he's able to recover in some form and is surrounded by people who love him. He was put through hell, it sounds like, and it's just horrific. Florina Outshell.
Okay. Now, there's another article here from Mountaintop Media. I really like them. They're pretty decent local news here in the area. Pike woman charged with child abuse that doctors say had the appearance of orchard. And it says it's from Raccoon, Kentucky. A Pike County woman is in jail after a boy returned to school showing signs of what doctors call the orchard. Mary Hall, 42. Yeah, she needs to be crying in that mug shot. Of Raccoon was arrested Wednesday afternoon and charged with first-degree CA. First-degree assault and kidnapping. The charges were the result of someone at the child's school noticing several injuries and disturbing behaviors. The person said that they had not seen the, I guess, child in over a month due to the extended break from school. See, our kids were out of school for a month. Our kids hadn't been back to school since before Christmas. So that month really allows time to, for things like this to happen. Around here, one of the big things with kids is school. They go to school to eat. There's a lot of kids that go to school to eat. They don't get fed at home regularly. And so school provides them a safe place for 8 hours a day. It gives them access to people who actually treat them well and care about them. And they get to eat. It's so sad, but unfortunately, that's a reality that we see all too often here. Before the break, they reported the boy would come to school with bruises, which could have been caused by playing. But when the child came back to school this week, his front teeth were chipped and he had a busted nose. The boy explained his injuries as the result of carrying wood while riding a bicycle, but did not say how that happened. When she was asked about the injuries, Hall also said he had been carrying wood and outside playing, but also said he might have hurt himself in his sleep. Well, that's interesting. But there were other signs of use outlined in the report. There are times when he is not allowed to eat at home due to discipline, the arrest warrant says. He has appeared hungry. The other children report to Mary as to what happens at school. So the other kids tell the lady, how the kid was, what all happened at school. Like little spies. He was able, and they don't even realize that they're being, manipulated that way. He was able to have a piece of cake and a pizza, and pizza at school. And Mary stated that he will not receive dinner since he was given this at school. The report described the boy as pale and skinny, and that he appeared malnourished with clammy skin. It also says he would frequently gorge himself when he ate at school, and that he did so until he threw up the day the report was taken. Man. The report says the boy's siblings do not get the same treatment and do not appear malnourished and do not gorge on food at school. When police went to the boy's home, they found his bedroom to be a dark room with locks on the outside. Once the boy was taken from the home, the arrest warrant noted he went into cardiac arrest and had to be taken to UK hospital. Their doctor said he was unable to keep down solid food and that he showed signs of orchard. Hall is currently being held without bond in the Pike County Detention Center, and I hope that that's where he stays or where she stays. One of our viewers, Miss Ashley Short, says this little boy's mom's name is Julie, and she passed away due to a car accident on 582 Pine Top, Kentucky. The kids were with her in the accident. Mary is her sister's. This is his aunt that did this to him. So Mary is his mom's sister, or their mom's sister. Man, that's just awful. Now, I have a friend who is going to help us with this case. So we're actually going to have somebody to talk to about it. And, you know, I know these cases are really hard for a lot of people, for a lot of us, all of us. It's hard for all of us to hear this stuff. But it is important for us to know what's going on in our community. Because, look, this is just 20 miles from my house. It's 20 minutes from where we live. You know, a lot of this stuff, all this stuff that was going on with Ben Fields and all that, that was going on right down here, 20 minutes from where we live. You know, all these things are happening right up under our noses, you know. And it's very important for us just to be aware of what's going on around us. You know, take care of your mental health. If any of these cases are too hard for you, that's fine. But, you know, you always have a safe space here with us. So we're going to look at this case a little bit deeper tomorrow. And if it's okay with you all, I'm just going to leave this one here. This will be our last one for the day. We'll get back in on our trial in the morning, and then we'll just put that other case on the back burner for right now. We got so many. It's awful. Ashley says Julie was my sister-in-law for 11 years. All she ever wanted was to be a mother. That's so sad, Miss Ashley. I'm sorry, honey. Our prayers go out to all of you, everybody who knew them, everybody who loved them. You know, and one thing about sharing these stories is look how many people you can ask to pray for them, you know, sharing these stories. Okay, Miss Ashley, absolutely. And I got an email, or you can holler at me on Facebook, Messenger, either one. My email is hillbillycrime@gmail.com. If you want to shoot me an email, I'll get right back to you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, honey. No, we ain't going to give up on none of them. None of them. And we're going to ask for each and every single one of you who believe in the power of prayer. Keep these children and the families of all these cases in your prayers. And pray for the perpetrators as well. You know, they need prayer too. All right, guys. I saw kind of somebody in here all getting kind of upset over Mickey's thing. Nobody said that the civil lawsuit is why Mickey pew judge. Nobody said that. Now, I do think it's a factor. I do think it's a contributing factor that the deposition of the lawsuit, I don't know why, I don't know how. You know, we haven't been given those pieces of the puzzle yet. But, you know, we're all going to have differences of opinion, and that's perfectly fine. We can still agree to disagree and love each other, y'all. We don't have to fight and fuss. Just agree to disagree on anything. All right, y'all. Well, you have a great rest of your night. Stay blessed. Stay warm, which it's warm right now anyway. Stay safe. Peace out, Girl Scout. We'll see you bright and early at 9 a.m. Bye. Thank you.